All right, this is IT286 game production, November 10th, Wednesday class. So remember your deliverables are Friday in 2 days. So I would wrap that up. I would get your posting, your forms up. Remember, don't do it last minute. So for class today, I'm just going to look at the enemy AI. We've pretty much examined a lot of systems and scripts already in this first person shooter. And it's pretty complicated. And it's okay if a lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of these coding conventions and ideas really didn't click to me until I just kept coding and coding on projects. So it's really just about experience. But we covered a lot about the player. So input, the health. Well, the health and that damageable and the actor also was done on the enemies. So it's a kind of a generic functionality. But we covered all the weapons, which is like probably the deepest part of this whole thing, just because it's a first-person shooter, and a lot of how the player is being managed with the game states, like the win and loss and health and what have you. But in any case, we could just start picking apart. So the turret, I'm going to leave him because I think he's maybe, I'm going to assume, more complicated than the hoverbot. So I think we'll start with the hoverbot here. All right, let's see. We got a transform. So first off, the whole thing is just a prefab. Select the asset. So here it is. We only have two enemies: hoverbots and turrets. So we got a nested, not a nested prefab, but a hierarchy of game objects. Nested prefab means you pull prefabs within prefabs. Let's see. So we got the enemy controller script. We got the health and the actor, which we've looked at. The compass element where they appear on the GUI compass. The Nav Mesh agent. So there's a whole Nav Mesh system. I don't really get involved in it, but I'll try to find it. And I know you have to bake it out like the lighting. I'm sure there's a whole window just for Nav Mesh, but actually now that I was talking about it, it reminded me that under scenes, main scene, here's the Nav Mesh. So I don't know how you actually look at the surface of it, but here's like all the position information. It's like a big mesh that gets cooked out from the level, from all the colliders of the level geometry. And you might, maybe I'll be able to look at it. They don't have a view just for Nav Mesh, it looks like. There's some Nav Mesh stuff. Let me see if it's under level. It's like a Nav Mesh, the parts. So yeah, so normally you can see like this, there's like a view and it shows you which meshes will be painted blue or red that that the AI can use. But looks like the Nav Mesh system's changed a little bit how to view it. Oh, here we go, navigation. Cool. So all this blue area is where it could potentially move. So you can see the little vertices, the edges. It bakes out a mesh. And so it's like you can get close to walls, but you can't intersect with them. You can see how there's a connecting point in the doorway, so they can move between, what have you. So this whole Nav Mesh area gets baked out from your level geo, and then we'll figure out if we can look at the script to. So this has an agent on it, which is it showing anything? Oh. Anyway, when we get to the Nav Mesh Script, let's take a look at it. So enemy controller. Actually, before I dive into the script, right, you went through the scripts. Then there's the turret. Which is the animation component underneath all the meshes. Okay, so there is an animation component here. So I'll just bring up the animation window. So we have idle. I guess it's just like looking around. We got active hunt, actively hurt when he gets knocked. Okay, it's getting knocked around from a bullet. Attack in. So I guess it's like standing up, getting ready to get some momentum for an attack or whatever it's doing. The attack loop. So he's up, he's in his attack ready state, and I guess attack out, he like drops back down. He's like done attacking. Right, the idle, he's looking around, and passive hurt. All right, I guess this has to do with like a grenade. I guess activated hurt. Maybe let's say he got shot. Passive hurt. Maybe a grenade hits him, but we'll see. So that was the animations that are able to be played. But if I look at the animator, it's down here as well. This tells you how to transition between those animations we were just looking at. So usually you have some parameters that you call from your script. So in this case, on damaged and is active. So when it's one of them is a trigger, one's a bool. So you could do floats, ints, and bools, which you're used to. A trigger is like a one-way bool. Like bool could be true, false. A trigger is just like it gets triggered, gets popped and on, and then it just kind of goes back to off instantly. So it's useful for just triggering an event. Like you don't need to do an overhead of a bool. So normally when you click on the animator, I should in the inspector, I guess I need the object selected and then move this here onto this panel down here. And then it's weird, the inspector is supposed to get filled out. Yeah, you can see like any state, entry, default. It's weird. So these are supposed to say which animations they're referencing, and this transition is supposed to say which what actually activates transitioning from one animation to the other. Maybe it's a Unity glitch that in this version it just won't show that stuff, but yeah, here we go. This one's actually shown, right? All right, so let's just deal with the hoverbot then. For some reason, the turret animator is not showing correctly. But we're supposed to be looking at the hoverbot anyway. So, okay, so we have an idle. Okay, so we're going from idle to locomotion to alerted. And then here's the direction. So we go from idle to locomotion. If the moving speed is greater than 0.5 and alerted is false. So alerted, getting parameters here. Oh, so that has attack, move speed, alerted, undamaged, and death. You could set all these as, it's like there's a bool, that's a trigger, that's a float. So this is saying if move speed is greater than this and alerted is false, then we can just move. And to go from locomotion to alerted, alerted is true. We leave locomotion if our speed becomes less than 5. We go alerted back to just moving. If alerted becomes false, we go from alerted to idle. If our move speed is less than this and our alerted becomes false, we go straight from idle into alerted. If we're moving and we're alerted, it's true. So the only thing, let me look at these layers real quick. So I'm not going to get too heavy in this, but this is like, these are our base animations, our base actions. That's right on this base layer. And then you can add additional, yeah, so it's additive blending. So this means these animations, like the attack animations will get added on top. So whether this thing is idle or moving or it's alerted, it'll still play these base animations. And then in addition to that, if the attack trigger happens, remember the trigger is this thing here. If the attack trigger happens, we're going to play the shoot animation on top of whatever it's doing, whether it's idle, alerted, or moving. And then we leave. So this whole layer only enters, and we do a shot when this attack is triggered, and we leave and come back in. And then when they're damaged, it's the same thing. We come in, and if undamaged, then we'll play the hurt animation. That's kind of the basics of how this thing is animating. But I was looking at the animations for the other one. So this is alert. This is hurt. This is idle and it's closed. This is a run forward. So notice the run, it's like standing in motion. Everything, it's just all the parts, how all the parts would move, not the root. So by code, we're going to grab this thing at the root. We're going to move it around. So if like running is, we have the animation running while we actually move this thing with our code. And that's how the animation works with procedural systems. And a shot animation. Okay. So what else do we have? The root of its weapon, which it does have a weapon controller, has eye lasers, and it's using the same system. So as the weapon controller, it has a projectile prefab, and so the player can tell if the projectile works with the player, the health script on the player. Then we have a hitbox. So this little sphere around it is the damageable, what it can get shot with. Notice that it has all the way at the top here, it has a different collider. Yeah, let's see what it is. I thought it'd be rough. I thought it'd be with the controller script, but maybe it's down. All right, so it has a health bar above it. That's a UI that's sitting in world space. A shadow that gets projected down underneath it in a cheap way. And some type of detection module. So now, where is, so besides this sphere collider, we have this big cube. We have some grayed out cube. Oh, that's the shadow. So you have this big cylinder I'm concerned about. It's the big yellow sphere might be part of Nav Mesh. Oh no, audio source. Oh, this might be the path. Oh, okay. This yellow debug drawing is coming from path reaching range. So the path, so it looks out in this distance around it onto the nav mesh to see like where it can move. And I don't know about these attack range. Yeah, see anything changing. All right, but at least that's what the yellow thing is. And this light blue thing might be. Somewhere here. Okay, the light blue thing is coming from this eye laser. And I can see it's the min dist. It's a 3D sound. This is like the 3D sound, the volume of space that this 3D sound can play in. So that's what this thing is. It's the hitbox. I think so. That's explained everything except this green cylinder. And the green cylinder is for, I'm pretty sure it's connected with the enemy controller or maybe the nav mesh agent. Either way, it's a physics collider dealing with movement because the hit detection is the sphere. So enemy controller. I think some of this we went through in the previous class, but yeah, you have to also have components of type health, actor, and an nav mesh agent, which they're here. You would get errors if not. So it's a renderer index data. Was this up top here? There's some self-destruct, path reaching. If you increase, that'll increase. Weapon parameters, the eye color, the flash on hit, sounds it plays, the VFX it plays, the loot it drops, bunch of debug stuff. All right. So this isn't displayed out to the inspector. This is handling some render and material indices. Oh, it's dealing with the eye. I guess it's swapping out a lot of materials on the body and the eyes and stuff. So it's handling all the indices of that, all the collections of that. So here's the stuff we were just seeing, like the self-destruction path, the distance at which enemy consists has reached its current path destination. Okay. So it must have some destination points, and if it's within 2 meters, and it's at the point, we can get the next point. So we have some events on attack, undetected, unlost, target, undamaged. So the body renders. Yep. So the patrol path. Let's see that one. That's okay to get set. It's not exposed out here. Just 1 second. I don't know if this is an emergency phone call. Just give me 1 second. All right. So let's see who's setting this return patrol path. So this is down in the 200s. All right, I'll take a look at it later. Okay, so this detection module script looks at detected targets. Is the target within range? All right, I guess there's two things to look at, like kind of the path finding and the detection targeting. Then a bunch of fields, private member variables, dealing with the enemy manager, actor manager, game flow, a lot of manager and weapons. So on start, go get the enemy manager, the actor manager, register the enemy, go find its health and actor, its Nav Mesh, the game flow manager, subscribe to events. So find and initialize its weapon. So this kind of stuff is very similar to the player controller. Go find the detection module in the hierarchy of the game objects. So these are events on the detection module, and we registered with them. So I guess on detected target, on lost target. So guessing these give some behavior to the enemy when they realize that they've found and lost the target. And on attack, so go get the navigation modules. I didn't notice that in the hierarchy. So that's a detection module. Maybe it's right at the root. This is a Nav Mesh agent. This is not the navigation module. Overrides now. Okay, I think the navigation module. I was going to say it's the Nav Mesh agent, but it doesn't seem to be. It's saying there's a script. Yeah, navigation module. Find references in the scene. There is none. Okay. They're not using the script, or they're overriding. It's not. They're not actually using it. Okay. So a bunch of render stuff. So update. Ensure it's within the level bounds. So if the Y position gets less than the self-destruct height, which was negative 20 meters, then it's outside the bounds of the game. Oh, that's okay. So I remember way back when I was trying to figure out where the kill zone is, and usually it's a collide. It's just a collider, but in this case, they just have they're just doing a check. If this thing ever gets to negative 20 meters in height, just destroy it. So undetected, non-lost. So we're gonna invoke it, and then you change the eye color. So I guess whether they found it, they're on a target, or they lost it, the big thing is just the eye render. Yep, and they're just invoking that. All right, and the enemy. Okay, enemy mobile. I just fell into the enemy mobile script, but I don't see it. I mean, the hoverbot is mobile, so I think it would have. Oh, it does have enemy mobile script. Okay. So any mobile script has patrol, follow, attack, and the animator that drives it with some VFX stuff and sound effects. An AI state. This is connected to enemy controller script, which is on the same game object. Okay, let's install the same event. Update AI state transition, update current AI state. So what's that stuff? Which one's first? AI state transition. So depending on which AI state we're in, follow, attack. If we're within the follow state, and we're seeing a target, and the target is in attack range, then we go into the attack state, and we set our nav destination to this transform. Make sure it's just this, the enemy's transform, not the player's transform. So if it's able to attack, it's basically stand still and just attack. Transition to follow when there's no longer. So if the enemy is not in target attack range, and go into follow mode. Okay. So then, which this gets called afterward, update current AI state. So then we handle the logic of states. So if we're in patrol state, then we call update path destination, set nav destination to get destination on path. So this goes back to the enemy controller. Sorry, update path destination. So if the path is valid, go take its current position minus the magnitude of get destination on path. So get destination. So now we're getting pulled into the patrol path. All right. Is that on here as well? Mobile, health, Nav Mesh. No, that wasn't part of the detection module. Now this might be going into the black box of like the Nav Mesh agent. So steering, speed, avoiding obstacles, path finding. Is there an actual path? Just pass, patrol path. All right, so there's 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. So all 3 points within the room of the hoverbot. Oh, and here's the patrol path script. All right, go ahead. Patrol path. Enemies that will be assigned this path on start. I'm guessing the hover is assigned to this. Yeah, the enemy controller script of the hoverbot. The path nodes, I just clicked on them. There's like, it's like a triangle, 3 points. I guess it's trying to being drawn out, although there's no debug on that. Or explicit debug. Maybe it's within this here. All right, so list of transforms for the path nodes, list of enemy controllers. So start for each enemy, the enemy patrol path equals this script. Okay, so if I go to that, yeah, that's this getter setter before this property. So we set the hover enemy controller patrol path to this script. Sure. What's it gonna? Was it use this for? References. So it's using it quite a bit. All right, down in the around the 250s to 300. All right, I'll look at those parts later, but let's just see what's happening here. Get distance to node. So we have an origin and a destination node index. So of the three path points, we can get the distance to the nodes. So if the index is out of range, just return -1. Else, return the transform of that path node, its position minus the origin dot magnitude. Okay, so we take one vector, we subtract the other. So like the x, y, z of each. When you take one vector and you subtract another, you go through each component, you create another vector. It's like x1 minus x2 and y1 minus y2. But anyway, you get a vector between the two. And then you can just get the length. When you call a magnitude function of a vector, you just get like the length of that vector. So how long is it in meters? So that's you get the distance. So get position of path node. So you pop in a node index. If the node index is out of range, you're returning vector 3. Otherwise, you return the position of that path node. Okay, here's the drawing the gizmos. Okay, so it's drawing a line from each of the positions. So there's 3 path nodes. So between yeah, so from position 0 to position 1 to position 2, and then it must be position 2 to position 0. All right, so if next index is I+1, if next index is greater than the count, then we just subtract the count from it, which you could just say 0, but yep. And then they're drawing a sphere around the position with 1/10 of a unit. Okay, there's a little sphere. So line, 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 sphere, sphere, sphere. Nice. That's a little editor tool. So if we're doing debug, you must be using, oh, you don't need to use a Unity editor anymore, unless you're calling it specifically. Implement this if you want to draw gizmos. You don't usually have to do that through Unity editor. So you don't do anymore. Okay. In either case, I think I was all the way down here in enemy mobile, the logic. Yeah, so this is saying for patrolling, go to the control script and update the path destination. And the path destination is where the enemy is minus the get path destination, get destination on path dot magnitude. So this returns the position of, position 0, 1, or 2. Return it, otherwise just return the position that the object is on. So ultimately what that does is, get the position. So that was this get destination on the path. So this gets the vector, the position of what the next node is or where they're currently at. Get the magnitude is if where we're at, the default is send us back where we're at. That's magnitude of 0, where we are. Otherwise, where we're going, find the magnitude, the distance between the two, and see if it's less than that path reaching radius. That's that sphere that was around the robot at like 0.2 meters. So if you're that close, if you're that close to either yourself, if something is wrong, or if you're that close to the next point on the path and we've reached our location, then we increment the path destination. So it depends if we're going in reverse order, if we're going backwards through the list or forward, pick the next node. And then if the node is below 0, or if it's beyond our count, we reset the position, in the index so that we're always within the index, the list's index. And ultimately, that's it. So that was this line. Then we set the nav destination based on the get destination path that we saw what was happening. So if you have a nav mesh agent, go call it set destination with the destination that you're pumping in, which might be the same thing that we're still trying to get to, one of the 3 points. Or we found that, remember, we were within a 0.2 meter distance of it, and we can go look at the next one, which the destination would be the next one. That's patrol. So if we're figured out to be in a follow state, then we go get the known detected target, get its position, set the nav destination to that, orient the enemy towards it, orient the weapon toward it. And so since now we have a new destination that's not itself and it's not the 3 points that are on the patrol path. So this, it'll still move when it's in a follow. It's still going to use that that basic move command that must be in there somewhere. Anyway, attack. If the distance from the known detected target's position and our detection module is greater than the attack stop distance times the attack range, then we set the nav destination to the known detected target position. Else we set our destination to ourself. In either case, we orient towards the known target and we try to attack. So do I want to jump? Oh, I think I'll take a look at this, try to attack real quick. If game is ending, just end it, orient the weapon towards. Okay, so in this case, it's the enemy of the enemy, the player. Because I'm guessing this is used maybe for the player as well. If the weapon swapped plus delayed time period of time, you can't shoot. Otherwise, you can shoot the weapon to get the current weapon, handle the shot input. So this is firing the weapon with the weapon manager. And if you fired and the attack is not null, then you can send out an attack event. All right, let's swap to the next weapon. Weapon length. So this is if you're swapping the weapon, but for a hover drone, he's not going to swap weapon and then return whether you fired or not. Cool, so let's look up a little bit here and we can look at the detection module. So it's being exposed. Detection source is its weapon root. Range is 20 meters. Attack range 10 meters. No target timeout 12. Time before the enemy abandons a known target that I can't see anymore. 12 seconds. All right. And then it can fire off undetected and unlost. Is it seeing the target? Is there known? All right, so start. Go get the actor manager. Handle target detection. Virtual, so it's who it's not inheriting from anything. Actor collider. Handle known target. So if undetected target, not seeing. All right. So basically, there was a known target, but you're not seeing it, and the time since seeing the last target is greater than 0. Since the time that's ranged since the last time seen the target during the timeout, then we just are not detecting anyone anymore. So find the closest visible hostile actor. So a lot of the script has to do with there's a lot of reuse they were thinking of using, both on like the enemy side. Maybe it'll be like other factions, enemies of enemies, or but they ended up using it. So it's a little bit too robust for this situation. So this is what they might call a little bit of a little over engineering. It's good if there was going to be like neutral factions or friendly factions, and they could. So, but it's a little bit of complicated code for a like a micro game. So anyway, just to be aware, it's a little over engineered. Detection rate. So the square that says the closest square distance. Sometimes you'll see the infinities if you want to do checks, but you want to check like against. You need to initially set something to infinity or negative infinity because you need to do less than or equal or greater than checks, and you need to start off with something really on the either end so that you can move off from the first thing you're comparing. For other actors affiliations, yes, I'm talking about like affiliation of the actor. Which side are they on? It's it was a bit over engineered. Check for obstacles. So if there's something between you and like, so it's like go through every actor on the level and check their affiliation. If the affiliation is not with you, is an enemy of you, then we can go ahead and start doing some distance checks. Is your view obscured? You know, is there an object between the enemy and the player? So even though the player is close enough, technically the enemy shouldn't see them, type thing. And then for hits, if the contains a hit, found valid hit. Okay, if you found a valid hit and there's an active component, and you can see it, and it's time since last. Then you've set the time. You've seen an enemy. You're setting that time since last seen, and you've set your known detected target to that other actor. Right. So this is still then handle target detection. So then you do a check, how close are they? And we see is the target in attack range based on these calculations. Not had known target and known detected target is not null, then call on detect. On lost target, remember if we already knew target for next frame. Okay. So these are just calling, ultimately, it's just calling an invoke. It's calling an event. If anyone is listening to this event, then we call their methods that they're subscribed to that event. So whenever this thing determines that they've lost a target or detected, it'll send that out, and the enemy controller or the enemy mobile is listening to these events to know if it should change like the AI state or anything else that was going on in the enemy controller. And on attack, it's just setting some animation. Oh, so here's the trigger. Set trigger on the animator. The attack parameter it is on the damaged parameter. So those are the parameters I was showing you on the animator. So if you're on attack, it's going to play the attack animation. And this one, if it took damage, it should play the on damage animation. So that's all with the detection. So in the enemy controller, in the bigger scheme of things, updating, set the nav destination, update the path destination. So on damaged, if you got hit from that damageable script that's down in the hierarchy, so the detection module knows that it's on damage, sends out an event. On die, play sound effect, unregistered self, destroy it. The sound of the visual effect after 5 seconds, drop an item, destroy the main enemy game object. Oh, here's join the gizmos that I was looking at, the path reaching, detection, attack, range. Sure. Orient weapons, try to attack if it's determined that it's in an attack state. All right, so both the enemy mobile and enemy turret use this main enemy controller script. Try to drop an item. So there's some randomness of what the loot it'll drop. Find it initially as the weapon. Let's get the weapon controller. Right. And then enemy mobile, yeah, it was down with. This has to do a lot with the AI states, patrol, follow, and attack. A lot of events being subscribed to on the start. Yeah, set the move speeder, update the move speed parameter on the animator. Once it's over that, remember that 0.0, it's like 0.05. It'll play move. Yep, this is updating the AI states that I went through. Cool. That's pretty much everything. All right. So that was kind of the big overview of everything that the enemy prefab is doing, in particular the navigation and detection for artificial intelligence. That's however it's being used in this project. Did you have any questions? All right, hey, you're free to go. Otherwise, you can hang out and ask me a question.